I'm just a mom who's gone through a lot of things, who's had 2 kids, who feels like she kind of knows what she's doing. Not a ton, but alright y'all, it is 11 o'clock p.m. and I finally got both my babies to sleep so I can sit down and film this video. Mostly the little one is the hard one. So anyways, hi, I'm Katie. If you're new here, welcome. I have 2 little girls and one of them is 2 months old. She's the one that's hard to get down. And then I also have a 2.5-year-old. I'm super excited because this video is actually in collaboration with Madeliene Van Marder, who is a mom of 3 little boys who are all super close in age. And she's actually pregnant with her 4th little boy as well. So she has a lot of pregnancy content, a lot of motherhood content, very similar to mine, like vlog style, day in the life, like all things mom. And then also Alli Marie, she's the same way. She's a mom of 2, so she actually has a little girl and a little boy, and same thing. Lots of vlog content, day in the life, all things motherhood. So very similar content to mine. They're also both filming videos giving advice for first-time moms. So if you're a mom or you're about to be a mom or anything like that and you're just looking for like other advice or other helpful tips from other moms, absolutely go check out their videos. And you can also check out their channels because, like I said, lots of similar content to mine. So if you enjoy my videos, you'll absolutely love theirs. Anyways, today I'm filming some of my advice for first-time moms. Even if you're not a first-time mom and you're just like a mom in general, it's just fun to hear other people's opinions on things and like tips and tricks that have worked with them and helped them. So I'm super excited to be filming this. I wrote everything down in my notes because the other night I was just laying in bed like thinking back when I was a first-time mom, because like I said, I have 2 kids, and when I first had my daughter, I had absolutely no clue what I'm doing, and let's get real, I still have no clue what I'm doing. And I was actually just talking to my friend about this. I feel like you just learn as you go. Like as a mom, you just figure things out. Every new phase is like you have to figure it out all over again. Like once they start to learn to sit up, and once they start to eat solids, and once they like get into the toddler phase and you actually have to parent, like stuff like that. And so you just like figure it out as you go, just like everybody else. So I do want to give a disclaimer that I am not a doctor, I'm not a pediatrician, I'm not a baby expert, none of those things. I am just a mom who's gone through a lot of things, who's had 2 kids, who feels like she kind of knows what she's doing. Not a ton, but I kind of feel like I've figured things out as I go. So I do feel like I have some helpful advice if you are a first-time mom. And the first thing that I have down is that all babies are different. The number one thing I always tell people, especially as a first-time mom, it's so hard not to compare. Like if you're having friends that are also having babies, or you have like friends who have kids around the same age as yours, you're constantly comparing, especially with social media these days. It's so hard not to compare, but like do not overthink it. If your friend's baby is like already sitting up or already crawling or walking or something along those lines and your kid is not there yet, do not worry about it. They will get there eventually. Every kid goes at their own pace. Like don't overthink things like that. Especially the other thing that goes along with that is every baby is different. So if you're a mom and you're having multiple kids, so let's say you're pregnant with your 2nd kid, your 2nd kid's gonna be a whole new ball game. Like at least for me, Avery and Paige, my two girls, are so different. Like Avery hates the swing, Paige loved the swing. Avery will not take a binky or a bottle, and Paige was a binky and bottle baby. I mean, she nursed too, but she would take a bottle no problem. And it's just, I swear, like everything is just like polar opposite, which it just blows my mind. But if you're about to have your 2nd kid, just be aware of that. My second advice is do what is best for you and your baby. So let's say you're doing something and it's working really well for you, and then you read something on the internet or see something on the internet that like contradicts what you've been doing. You don't have to listen to it. Like obviously, like I said, not a doctor, not an expert. Use your common sense. If you're putting your kid in, like, I seriously doubt that you're putting your kid in danger, and it's like working for you. There's so much information out there, and you don't have to listen to all of it. Like a prime example is having to wake your kid up every 3 hours to eat. Once again, not a doctor, but you do not need to wake up your kid every 3 hours to make sure they're eating in the beginning. I did not do that with either one of my babies, and I have friends who regretted doing that so much because they were never getting their baby to sleep through the night. Obviously, if your baby is having like growth issues or having a hard time putting on weight, yes, feed your baby every 3 hours, wake them up. But if you're not having those issues, you don't need to do that. And same thing with like the sleep training stuff, like the eat or like wake, eat, play, sleep or whatever. I remember feeling so guilty because with Paige, I would nurse her to sleep and I thought I was doing something so wrong. I was like this isn't good for my baby, I'm gonna mess her up. She's been a great sleeper her entire life, her entire 2.5 years. And nursing her to sleep, obviously I don't do that anymore, but when I nursed her to sleep, it was not an issue for us. And I just don't feel the need to like nurse my baby, have her fall asleep on me and then wake her up so that she could play. Like if she was tired, then she needed to sleep. So I don't know, it's just stuff like that. Like there's so much information out there, and if you're doing something that works for you and your baby, stick with it. You do not need to listen to all the advice. Now, if you're having a really hard time getting them on a good schedule or something, maybe try that. But don't feel like you need to do that if you're doing something that's working well for you. My next advice goes along with diapers. I remember when I was a first-time mom, I knew nothing. And it was funny because the other day, my little sister was changing Avery's diaper, which is my 2-month-old. And she like went to grab the wipes and she had just pee. Like there's nothing else except for pee in her diaper. And I was like, you don't have to wipe every time they pee. Like obviously if you like change your diaper and it looks like you wipe them down, then wipe them down, but you do not have to do that every single time. And she was like, oh, learning something new every day, you know. And I remember I didn't like, it took me a really long time to realize like, okay, I probably don't need to waste wipes every single time I change her diaper. So I mean, some moms do. Once again, do what works for you, but just one of those things where it's like a waste of a wipe. But this one goes along with diapers. Make sure the ruffles, I didn't know this either, the ruffles on the diaper are out. I will post a little, like insert a little video right here of what I'm talking about. But that helps so much with blowouts to make sure the ruffles are out. So like after you put their diaper on, just run your finger along it and pull the little ruffles out so that you can help with blowouts, because a lot of times it will minimize the blowout if they do have one. Another thing that goes along with blowouts is onesies. I will like insert a photo, but the very top of the onesies, I didn't know this, but like right here, there's like little flaps that you can fold over their arms so that you don't have to pull, like if they blow out, you don't have to pull over their head and get poop all over their back and shoulders and head and then have to give them a bath. I didn't know that with my first kid. Now I do. So just like some little tips that some moms don't know about. Some people did know that, like some people do know that, so shout out to you if you do, but I, as a first-time mom, had no clue. My next tip, if you're a first-time mom or about to become a mom, don't overthink tracking everything. Now, they have so many tracker apps these days, which are very, very handy. I did use an app with both my girls in the beginning, and I tracked for so long with Paige, and I got to the point where I was like, why am I still tracking this? Like, it was consuming me almost. So tracking their diapers, tracking which side they're eating on, how long they're eating, like if you're doing bottles, how many ounces they're eating, tracking their sleep, like every single thing that they do, I was putting into this app and tracking, and it was almost consuming me. And with Avery, I did that in the beginning for about the first month. And then I realized after that, like, we're good. She's eating good. She's pooping good. Like, as long as your kid is able to eat and poop and sleep, you're good. You don't need to track it all. And so that's just my next advice, is like, don't overthink all the little things, especially when it comes to like tracking and all of that. I will say the tracker app was helpful to know which side I was on, but my new like thing that I do is a lot of people will take a hair tie and they'll put it on whatever wrist they're on. So like if I need to feed her on this side next, I would put it on this. And then before I feed her, I just switch it over to this wrist and then feed her on that side. And then I knew for the next time that she's on this side. So that's like some advice for me. I really hate having my hair tie on the opposite wrist. And so I would just take like on the little clamps. I don't have one on here right now because I just changed, but just put like a little elastic hair tie. So like Paige's hair ties are little elastics, and I just put a little elastic on whichever side I'm on. So there's lots of different ways that you can track which side you're on. A lot of people do the boob grab too. That just does not work for me because I feel like they both feel the same every time I go to feed her. But you don't have to track everything in an app is my whole point behind all of this. My next advice is keep your night environment very calm and like the same. So I'm very lucky in the fact that both my girls are great sleepers. I've gotten both of them to sleep through the night by 6 weeks. Don't get me wrong, they do wake up once. So both Avery and Paige would typically go down around 10 o'clock, and then Paige doesn't do that anymore. I'm saying when they were newborns, or 6 weeks. They go down for bed around 10 o'clock, and then they both wake up once. So like I'm gonna use Avery as an example for right now because she's my newborn, but she goes down around 10 and then she wakes up around 5 to eat, and then she goes straight back down until about like 9. And don't get me wrong, we have some off nights where she will wake up more than once, but for the most part that's her schedule, is like 10 to 5. She eats at 5 and then she goes right back down till 9. And I just keep the environment super calm. So we have a white noise machine. I do have a full night with a newborn, so if you haven't seen that video, you can go check that out. But I just like keep the sound machine on. I turn on a very dim lamp. I do not take her out of her swaddle or anything. Most swaddles you can zip from the bottom up. You have to take them out of the swaddle, just be like super gentle with it to like change their diaper. I don't always change her diaper though. Like if she doesn't need her diaper changed in the middle of the night, like it's not super full, I'll just leave it until morning. But yeah, just keep the environment super calm. And even if they do wake up, like if she decides that she's gonna wake up at like 2 a.m. or something, I do the same thing. I keep the environment super calm. I get up and feed her. I put her right back down, and then I go back to bed too. So I don't know if that is like one of the things that like helps my girls sleep through the night. I could just be super lucky, but that's like some more advice, is like don't turn on all the bright lights, don't turn off the noise machine, don't take them out of their swaddle if you don't need to. Like just try to keep the environment calm. I guess I've said that like so many times, but that's my advice. The next thing I want to talk about is burping your baby after feeding them. If you're a first-time mom, you might not know these things. Like as a mom now, I'm like, obviously. But when I was a first-time mom, I remember being like, how do I burp my baby? Like, am I supposed to pat her butt or like up above like her chest? Should I pat like the middle of her back? Like I didn't even know where I was supposed to be patting. And if you don't know, typically it's like best to pat them between their shoulder blades, like on their back. And you do have to pat pretty hard, and I promise you're not hurting them. If you're patting your baby pretty hard, like they'll let you know if you're hurting them. They will start to cry or fuss or like squirm around if you're hurting them. So just know like you need to pat pretty hard. Don't be banging on them obviously, but pat hard enough that they can get their burp out, because if they don't burp, their stomach is going to be so upset. But along those lines, they're not necessarily going to burp every single time either. Like make sure you burp them, you try to get them burped, and if they don't burp, it's okay. Like I know Avery a lot of times will not always burp, and she won't be fussy or squirmy or like seem in discomfort afterward either. Like she just didn't have to burp that time. But keep that in mind. Like if you don't get a burp out of your baby and then you lay them down and they start to fuss a lot or like squirm around or seem uncomfortable, pick them back up and try and burp them some more, because it's just their stomach. Like they just need to get that air out. And you can hold them under their chin. So it's so funny. Another thing like that's completely different about my babies, but Paige always liked to be over my shoulder when I was burping her. Avery's the opposite. She wants to be sitting up on my lap, and then I just like because she's still not bobbly head face, so I would just like use my hands like this to support her head, and I just burp her on the back, and that's the way that she likes to be burped. So you guys can look it up. Like there's all sorts of like tips and tricks out there on burping your baby, but absolutely try and burp your baby because it will help so much with their stomach. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is swaddling your baby. Once again, my two babies are completely different. Paige absolutely loved her Velcro swaddle that swaddled her down. It was the Swaddle Me brand, and I highly recommend those swaddles. Paige loved them, and they were so easy and convenient. And like my favorite thing ever is like unswaddling them in the morning and having their arms like pop up and letting them stretch. Like I just think it's the cutest thing. But Avery's the exact opposite. She hated having her arms swaddled down. She likes to have her hands up so that she can like comfort herself with her hands while she's sleeping, or like if she wakes up or something along those lines. And so I do want to mention the fact that there are different swaddles out there, and if one's not working for your baby, you can use a different one. The other thing that I love about the arms up swaddle is you don't have to transition them out of that. So I remember transitioning Paige out of a swaddle was so stressful for me. I was like, she's not going to sleep good. It's going to be such a nightmare. That's another thing is like, when do you take your baby out of a swaddle? Once they start to roll over. If they can roll over, then you need to take them out of a swaddle, because if their arms are swaddled down and they roll over, they could suffocate, obviously. It's usually unlikely, because at that age where they can roll over, they can usually lift their head and turn it too, but it's just like a safety thing, and that's usually about a good age to transition them out of that swaddle. And another great thing is once you transition them out of the arms down swaddle, you can transition them to an arms up swaddle so that they're not completely free. Like, you can put them in an arms up and then transition them out of that later down the road. But if you're transitioning your kid, there's once again so much advice out there. But like, another thing is you can swaddle them still but keep their arms out, or just put one arm out at a time. Like, just take time. The other thing I want to mention though is like, it's way easier. Your kids will adjust way easier than you think. At least my kid Paige has. Avery, I still haven't had to adjust out of anything yet, but Paige, every single time we were in a new adjustment, like another example is getting her out of her crib into a big girl bed, I was so stressed about that, and it wasn't easy. But once they transition, it takes a couple days, and once they're like transitioned, it's fine. So just know, like, it's gonna suck for a couple days. Once they get through it, everything is fine. My next advice for new moms specifically, or just moms in general, but specifically new moms, get out of the house. It's okay to leave the house. It's so good for your mental health, and it's also really good for your kids' immune system, like to go out in public or be around other like adults and kids. It's really good to help build their immune system. I was actually just listening to a podcast the other day that was talking about how it's actually good, like if your kid gets a little dirt on them or your baby gets a little dirt on them, don't wipe it off right away. Like, it's good to build their immune system like that. Like, obviously you don't need to cover your kid in dirt every day, but get them out and about, get them around other people, get them like used to being out of the house, because one, for you, but two, it's good for them. So don't be afraid to go to the grocery store. Don't be afraid to get back into hanging out with friends or going for a walk even. Like, I promise it'll be worth it. At least, I don't know how everyone else is, but for me personally, like, I will go crazy if I sit in my house all day, especially with a new baby. I kind of already touched on this, but my next advice is every phase is just a phase. If you're in a really hard phase where your kid is waking up all the time, just know, like, it sucks, but it's just a phase. Like, they'll outgrow it and you'll get through it, and it's not forever. Like, another example is like once they're toddlers and they're getting into like that hard phase of like trying to figure out boundaries and throwing tantrums all the time. It's just a phase. Like, yes, it sucks. No, it's not fun to go through, but you're gonna get through it. Like, I constantly have to remind myself that, especially with my toddler. Like, this is hard right now, but we will get through it, and it's not forever. So just remember that. And that's the other thing, especially with newborns, is like, those phases go by so quick, so try to enjoy them. Like, even the good parts, like, yes, there's bad parts, but there's also good parts, so try to enjoy those good parts too, because it goes by so freaking fast. My next advice is going into like topical ointments and creams. When I first had a baby, even I remember with Avery, I was like, do I put lotion on her after she takes a bath? Because with my toddler, I do. But ointments and creams, be easy on ointments and creams. Avery's actually struggling with cradle cap right now, something my doctor said that can help, because he knows I'm kind of weird about chemicals, but he was saying put coconut oil on it about an hour before she takes a bath, and that can like help soften it and maybe scrub some off. But don't overdo it on the ointments and creams. Like, if your baby's really dry, that is normal. It is completely normal, because they're trying to adjust to being out of the womb. And if you're putting a bunch of like lotions on them every single day, their skin is going to adjust to that. So then you're going to constantly have to be putting lotion on them. So same thing with diaper rash cream. Obviously, if your baby has a diaper rash, put cream on it. But if they don't have a rash, then leave it off, because your baby's skin is going to adjust to what you're doing to it every single day. So let's say you're putting lotion on your kid every single day, and then you stop for a little bit, your kid's skin is going to be super dry, if that makes sense. Like, try to let them accumulate to being in the real world before putting a bunch of creams on them. I don't know if that makes a ton of sense, but like, your kid will accumulate to what you're doing. So take what you can from that. My last piece of advice is, you know your baby best. You are with them 24/7. You know their cues, you know like when they're hungry or if they're crying, and they like a lot of like you'll learn once you get further into like being a mom. Like, you know which cries are which. Like if your kid's crying, you usually know like, oh, it's because I need to change her diaper, or she's probably hungry, or oh, she's overtired and needs to take a nap. You know, like you just kind of start to figure those things out, and just keep that in mind. Like, you know your baby best, so do what works best for you and your baby. Like I've said that before, but it's so freaking true. Like, especially if you feel like something is off, then push. Like if you're talking to your doctor and you feel like something's off and they're telling you that you're being over dramatic, push, because you know your baby best. Go get a second opinion, do some more research, push your opinions and your theories, because like I said, you're gonna know your kid best. So if something seems off, something's probably off. Anyways, that's my last piece of advice. I hope you guys got something good from this. Like I said, I highly recommend going to check out Madeliene and Alli's pages. I will leave links in the description to both of their YouTube channels, and I'm super grateful that they collabed with me on this video. If you came from either of those girls' channels, like please say hi and consider subscribing to my channel, because I would love to have you here. But comment down below, let me know your name, let me know if you're a mom or if you're about to be a mom. Like, just tell me a little bit about yourself, because I absolutely love chatting with y'all in the comments. And don't forget to give this video a like, and I will see you in my next one.